Grr. Hey dolls, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with another Makeup and Movies. This week's makeup is twofold. We have Juvia's Place Disco Fever, which is their collab with Fumi, Desalu, Vold, who I love, mwah. And I got sent from Martha out in BC, Trixie Mattel's Daytime Realness. Now this, look how new, is a blue palette. Trixie did a blue palette, and I have to say, I was very excited to get this because at the time, Trixie doesn't take PayPal. She does now. She's learned the error of her ways. The only problem is her stuff is so popular it's never in stock. So get on the mailing list. The reason I'm using this is I'm using this darker blue. I'm not using anything else from here, although everything else in here is fantastic. Just that darker blue. I'm going to use it to set my eyeliner. Well, I'm starting the series off by talking about what I consider to be drag queen movie essentials. I'm not saying that you can't be a drag queen without seeing these, but I think that it helps round out somebody's referencing if they know about a movie. This week's movie, one of my favorites, it is Auntie Mame, starring Rosalind Russell. This film was made in 1958. Auntie Mame was a book written by Edward Everett Tanner III. He wrote the book under the name of Patrick Dennis, which is the character that the book is being told by. Sometimes, a lot of fashion isn't new. It's always being recreated and reimagined. You could be inspired to make an outfit based on a lamp, based on a sofa, based on the color palette of a room. And a lot of movies, especially during the era of big Hollywood studio productions where it's all sound stages and it's all art directed and handled, these can all inspire a drag queen. Which brings me to the next reason that a movie is a great classic for a drag queen to watch. It's the strong female lead. You can have the best script, you can have the best wardrobe, you can have the best director, you can have all of that. But if any of that is not supported by an actress that can carry it all, not get lost in it, then it can be a waste of everyone's time as well. One of the first, in my opinion, great women like this is Rosalind Russell. She originated the role on Broadway. Before there was Angela Lansbury in the musical Mame, there was Rosalind Russell. And I really don't think that Mame, the character, would have had the longevity she had if it weren't for Rosalind Russell. On the Broadway stage, she played it 2 years. She was nominated and won the Tony. So did Peggy Cass, who played a supporting role, Agnes Gooch, who we'll talk about later. It's Rosalind Russell's performance that I see in Mame whenever I've looked at footage of Angela Lansbury playing it. Now, I'm not saying that Angela Lansbury didn't do her own thing to it. She totally did. Angela Lansbury brought Angela Lansbury to the musical. But there was a direction as to how that character should be played, and the cornerstones of that character were laid by Rosalind Russell. So much so that when they did the movie, they had her do the character. And really, I can't imagine anyone else doing it. There are lots of actresses that could do it. I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but there was just a great, perfect storm where Rosalind Russell's concerned that made this character delicious. Now, a lot of that can come down to the direction. And the director for the movie, Morton DaCosta, was also the director of the original Broadway play. Now, I don't think that the play was nominated beyond the acting. I think it may have been, I know in the Oscars it was only nominated for female lead, set direction. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I don't think that Morton DaCosta was nominated for the Oscar. He was nominated for Tony. I really don't think he won the Tony that year either. I should have checked this out. I'm sorry I didn't. Of course, a movie is nothing if it doesn't have quotable lines. These are the things that a lot of drag queens base their acts around. With something like Betty Davis, what a dump, that's my Betty Davis. What a dump! Ha! My brother, the straight man, this is his Betty Davis. What a dump! It's brilliant. You have to see it. These lines live because they were well written. And the thing about this movie, the screenplay was written by Betty Comden and Adolph Green. Now, they are a musical team. They both have won 7 Tonys as a pair writing musicals. One of the musicals they worked on I guess it was the screenplay for Singing in the Rain. So, like, they have a pedigree for musicals. But what's interesting is they wrote the screenplay, but it was based off of the original book for the Broadway play, which was written by Jerome Lawrence and Robert E. Lee. And they based that script off the original book by Patrick Dennis, a.k.a. Edward Everett Tanner III. So I really feel that we owe this snappy dialogue that is so quotable from Mame to Patrick Dennis. And there are fantastic lines in this movie that are all quotable and all worth knowing. And once you hear them, you'll notice, I've heard people say that before. Like, the big classic is "Life is a banquet and some poor suckers are starving to death." That's a great quotable line. My favorite, "Spitting distance? How vivid." Or, "When you're from Pittsburgh, you have to do something." That's, if I kept my hair natural like yours, I'd be bald. That's a great one. "That's a B, the first letter in a 7-letter word that means your late father." I think what else? Mame has to send Patrick to a school that this trustee from the bank that's protecting Patrick's inheritance approves of, and Mame sends him into the village to this hippy-dippy clothing optional thing, which of course is not acceptable. And this trustee finds him there, drags him home, and says, "Go on, tell your aunt what you were doing." And he said, "Well, we were playing Fish Family. It happens after yogurt time. And what they do is Mrs. So-and-so and the rest of the female students all kneel under the sun lamps and deposit their eggs like Lady Fish do. And then the boys all gather around and do what gentlemen fish do." And Mame is like just staring at him, her back to the trustee. Said, what could be more wholesome and natural? If a movie doesn't have great quotable lines, I don't see it being something that becomes iconic, and then I don't see it being something that becomes iconic for a drag queen. Something else that really makes a great movie for a drag queen: wardrobe. Wardrobe has to be stunning, and there's no wardrobe better, in my opinion, than Auntie Mame. And that all boils down to a wardrobe designer, Ori Kelly, who was Australian born. And for the longest time, I think he had 3 Oscars. He also designed the wardrobe for The Maltese Falcon and Casablanca. He was really known where women were concerned in hiding physical flaws and drawing the eye away from maybe trouble areas, which is why he also designed the wardrobe for Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon in Some Like It Hot in 1959. The fact that they were dressed like women successfully was because of Ori Kelly. He's just a brilliant designer. And in the movie Auntie Mame, the wardrobe that Mame wears, because she's rich and she's eclectic, the set decoration changes almost scene for scene. The whole point of her apartment in New York is almost every time you walk into it, new design, new interior decoration. And her wardrobe reflects that. And if you're a drag queen out there who's constantly maybe, I don't know I need inspiration, this is the perfect movie, she makes at least 50 costume changes. It's just a spectacular source of that kind of inspiration. So these are the elements to me that make a movie great for a drag queen. Can I just take a minute, for those of you who are too young to know, this is a cassette case. It's made to look like a cassette case. And if I'm not remembering wrong, that is the size of a cassette case. So the movie Mame, Auntie Mame, sorry, because that's the musical. The musical is Mame. The movie and the book is Auntie Mame. Is the story of a young boy going to live with his aunt. He's recently orphaned. We don't know what happened to his mother. But his father, it opens with his father writing a will that he assumes will never come to fruition because he's going to live forever, as most rich people think. And he does actually die. And reluctantly, he has left Patrick to live with his only living relative, which is his sister, who's this bohemian, crazy, but clearly wealthy. And it's never explained where her money comes from. The movie opens with Patrick Dennis, young Patrick Dennis, he's probably not even 10, going to live with his Auntie Mame. He's in the back of a cab with Nora Muldoon, the maid, a faithful servant to his father. She's escorting him to Mame Dennis's New York apartment. And when they arrive at Beekman Place, and this is where we get a sense of Mame, because they come out of the elevator, and right away out of the elevator is Mame's apartment door. And on it is this huge red and gold Chinese dragon. And they ring the doorbell, and steam comes out of this dragon's nose. And of course, Patrick Dennis is just freaking out. And Ito answers the door. The eyes of the dragon swing out, and he looks through, and he thinks that Nora's there to clean up after what's clearly a party. And he says to her, "Madam having a fair now." And he walks off, and of course, Nora's like, "Oh." And we see the party. And this party is chock-a-block with bohemians. And there's highbrow people, hippies, very mod, like that early 60s mod, striped pants, turtlenecks. There's a gaggle of cross-dressing women. They're all dressed like Quentin Crisp. They all have smart little hats on. Some of them have riding togs, which would have been an acceptable suit for a woman to wear at the time. But they all look like Marlene Dietrich. They're clearly the lesbians in the room. And there's a Lithuanian priest. There's a man with a monkey on his shoulder. There's one man playing the piano, lying on his back, leaning backwards. And then we see Mame at the top of the stairs. "Help is on the way, darlings." And then she comes tripping down the stairs. And ironically, when they filmed this scene, she tripped and fell and broke her ankle. And they had to postpone filming for a month or two while she convalesced. It's just a spectacular scene where you see this whole apartment. It's done in this 1950s influenced Asian decor. And this is something that we see throughout the movie. Every time we come in, it's a different, like we never see that dragon again, that whole door thing. That's the only time. And so when she sees Nora, she thinks she's there to clean up and is a little surprised that she brought a child with her. It's like, oh, no children. And she's like, no, I'm Nora, I'm bringing you your nephew. It's like, oh, well, you weren't due till tomorrow. And goes, 30 days. And she's like, my little love, I'm your Auntie Mame. And she literally takes Patrick by the arm and drags him around this party and starts to introduce him to people. And one of the things that happens in the course of this, she takes him out to the balcony where Acacius Page, what a beautiful name, this turtlenecked bohemian man is spouting philosophies or prose or some such thing. And she introduces him to Patrick, and apparently this man has this school down in the village where later Patrick plays Fish Family. He says something, I think libido or some such thing, some word, and Patrick says, Auntie Mame, what does that word mean? And she goes, oh, what did they do with you in Chicago? Didn't anyone ever talk to you? And so she grabs this pen and paper that Acacius has, hands it to Patrick, and says, you write down every word you don't understand, and then Auntie Mame will explain them to you. And then they go through the party. While they're doing that, Mame is just this classic ADD, like hitting on all sixes. And she's like, oh, and she drags him over to meet Vera Charles, her best friend who's an actress. And Vera is just very like, oh, hello. And she just fish hands Patrick. She shakes it as a fish hand. So while she's going around, people are starting to leave, and she assures them that she will meet them all at wherever the next party is. And then she says to Patrick, all right, let's sit down for just a minute and really get to know each other. And she says, read Auntie Mame the words. And so he does. And on the list are Karl Marx. Is he one of the Marx brothers? She's like, oh, no. Libido's on there, inferiority complex, heterosexual. And by the time he says heterosexual, she just grabs the whole list. Like, oh, my, what an eager little mind. And Patrick clearly is tired and exhausted, and so she takes Patrick upstairs to his room, but it's not ready yet. And in fact, even if he came the next day, I don't think it would have been ready, because the room she takes him to is clearly like an art studio. It's just filled with half-finished clay sculptures and various forms of assembly. And she said, oh, Auntie Mame's friend was using this room. He's an artist. He did magnificent things with my bust. Well, that's the head, you know. So she takes him to her room and puts him on the chaise in her room. He's just fading off. Don't you have to go to a party? He's like, I have nowhere else to be. And then she puts a mink over him, and every scene in the movie does this. They all transition like a play, whereas the curtains would close. In this movie, the lights fade down to a pinpoint spot on her face as she either does the last line or one last look. And in this case, she just is looking at Patrick, and it's just lovely. And in the next scene, it's I would say a few weeks at least, but long enough now that Patrick is quite used to being there. He clearly has his own room now, and Mame is dead asleep. When Patrick comes running in, he throws open the windows, or the curtains, and she's like, oh, child, how can you see with all that light? And in the course of that, the phone rings, and it's Dwight Babcock from the Knickerbocker Bank. And he has yet to meet Mame, and she's like, oh, yes, I'm sorry, I've been meaning to contact you. She hasn't. She's like, oh, you're where? In my neck of the woods? What's that? Spitting distance? How vivid. It's my favorite line. How vivid. I say it all the time. You've heard me say it. That's where it comes from. Because this man is coming, Auntie Mame freaks out. So she's trying to create like a more maternal image, and one of the things she thinks that'll help is if she braids a switch of hair, like an extension of hair, into a halo. While all that's going on upstairs, Patrick welcomes Dwight Babcock and says, my Auntie Mame will be down right away. She's having trouble with her halo. And of course, Dwight Babcock, no sense of humor whatsoever. And so Patrick kind of stares at him for a minute, and he's like, can I make you a martini? And Dwight Babcock just seems to be flabbergasted by this, and Patrick throws this whole martini, perfectly made, into a glass. And before he hands it to him, he says, would you care for an olive? My Auntie Mame says they take up too much room in such a little glass. And while all that's happening and he hands Dwight Babcock this drink, Mame is coming down the stairs and realizing, this can't be good. This won't go well. And so while he's sipping on his martini, she's like, Mr. Babcock, so good to finally meet you. Although I wonder if it's the best impression on a young mind to see someone drinking during business hours. And he's like, well, now, hey, wait a minute. Where did this boy learn to be? And Mr. Babcock, knowledge is power. And they start their relationship. And the whole thing he's there for is to make sure that Patrick goes to the right school. And she agrees. She says to him, well, you make a list of where you think he should go. And Patrick and I'll know just what to do with it. And the next scene, he's off outside some school, walking into it, smiling, nodding, tipping his hat to passersby and such. And then within minutes of walking into the school, he runs out of it, like knocking students over. It's just very funny. It's a very antithesis of how he entered the school. And then we end up on the next scene, which is Auntie Mame arriving home after clearly shopping with her friend Lindsay Wolseley, who is an editor. And I guess a bit of a paramour, somebody who's interested in Mame, but for some reason she always holds him at arm's length. And there's Mr. Babcock, and he's like, there you are. Do you know where I found your nephew? And she's like, what's happened to Patrick? And he's behind her, dressed in an overcoat. It's swallowing him. I found him in the worst of the lot. And do you know what he was doing? Tell your aunt what you were doing. And he tells her about playing Fish Family and the lady fish laying their eggs and the gentleman fish doing what gentlemen fish do. And Auntie Mame, what could be more wholesome and natural? And he takes Patrick off to boarding school, and it's awful. They're just heartbroken and crying. And right after this scene, Vera Charles comes tearing into the apartment. The stock market has crashed. Everybody is broke. Vera says, oh, well, you should be on the stage with me. And Mame jumps at the opportunity to perform. She's thinking, oh, I'll be a star. And Vera's like, well, it's just a small part, Mame. And it's a huge travesty. Mame on stage wears this jingly bracelet that just jingles throughout the whole production. And at one point, Vera Charles is like, what do you got back there, reindeer? And she just inadvertently sabotages the play and temporarily ruins her friendship with Vera. And then that's where she ends up this litany of crappy jobs she's failing at. And the last one is a sales girl. She's selling roller skates. And she is clearly not good at her job. She wants to do everything COD because she doesn't know how to ring up a cash sale. And this very rich man walks in and he wants to send 24 pair to an orphanage in Texas where he's from. And she wants to do it COD. And he's like, well, I don't think the little nippers would enjoy if their Christmas present came cash on delivery, and helps her figure out her cash book, which is just a mess. And her manager is just dumbfounded that she can't handle the simplest of things, which is a cash sale, and fires her. And you see that she when she's leaving the department store, she clearly has no money, like she can't even take a cab home. She just doesn't have the money. And it's Christmas, as I said. So when she gets home, Patrick's there, home from Christmas vacation, and she doesn't say anything to anybody about what's happened, but clearly is just devastated and heartbroken that this is the state of affairs right now for her. And Nora and Ito are still working for her, and as a surprise for Christmas, they paid her a butcher bill and her grocery bill, and she apologizes to them because she hasn't been able to pay them, and they're like, they clearly love her and are just there out of the love of her and the goodness of their own hearts. And while they're all sitting there having their Christmas, it's like, screw it, it's a couple of weeks early. This man from the department store, Beauregard Jackson Pickett Burnside, I think is his name, shows up with the phone book, and he's been looking for her since she walked out of the store, and he wants to take them all out for dinner. And they realize that he's left a taxi cab running outside waiting for him during the Depression. She's like, you left the taxi cab running during the Depression? Well, I'm in oil, ma'am. No matter what I do, it just keeps gushing. And Nora immediately says, oh, marry him, Mum, the minute he asks you. The next scene, they're in the South, where Beauregard Pickett Burnside is from. There's another name in there. I never remember his full name. Now, mind you, neither does Mame. But anyway, and this is where she meets Sally Cato, who used to be engaged to Beau and is clearly not happy that he's marrying a Yankee girl. And we meet Beauregard's mother. She's so funny in this movie because she calls all of her family vultures because they're all just waiting for her to die. And so Sally Cato arranges that they're going to do a hunt the next morning, that they'll all be on horseback hunting a fox. How vivid. And then she says, well, I only ride side saddle. My father, the colonel, insisted. She goes, oh, we have that. So she's got Patrick in the next scene reading How to Ride a Horse to her as she's trying to put on these very classic riding togs. And like, the whole time she's wearing these shoes, they're never on her foot. In fact, she says while she's trying, oh, I think Sally Cato left a foot in this one. And Beau shows up, and she kind of ushers Patrick out of the room, and he goes, oh, I'll find it. And so Mame is there, and Beau's trying to propose, and he's very nervous, and she's well, say it quick, Beau, I'll listen slow. And it's just very funny. And Sally Cato shows up and then busts into the room, and so Beau doesn't propose. They go down to the horses, and Sally Cato goes, oh, here's your horse now. And they look up, and they see this trailer, and the back door of it gets kicked off. And they're all like, oh. And this horse comes out, and he's just bucking and jumping, and all. There's not a quiet moment to this horse. It's like, oh, this is your horse now. Oh, what's its name? Meditation. What the hell is going on? And then there's this great scene of Rosalind Russell. They bring up a wooden staircase, 3 steps to the side of the horse. And Rosalind Russell, in these boots that aren't on her feet go up the stairs, but her body doesn't move, and she almost is flat. She gets one foot and falls off to the other side. It's the funniest thing. If all you ever see from this movie is Rosalind Russell trying to get on this horse, you won't be disappointed. And it's clearly her. She's doing all her own stunts. There's no anything. And then they do the race, and the race is filmed in two ways. One is Rosalind Russell, well, three ways. One is close-ups of Rosalind Russell clearly on the back of a fake horse, and the horse is moving back and forth, and she's on this side saddle. And if you don't know what a side saddle is, it's a saddle on a horse with these horns on this side. So the woman is sitting on the back of the horse, but her legs are wrapped around these horns to keep her on. So she's literally sitting with her legs on one side of the horse. The reason for this was to protect women's maidenhood, so that when they were on the horse bopping up and down, they didn't break their hymen or some such thing that people thought women would do. So it's her on top of this thing, literally, legs flying, and then there's live shots of people, and I would assume they're all stunt doubles. I don't think any of the real actors were on these horses. And at the end of it, Mame survives the whole thing. Beauregard proposes to Mame, she accepts, and then Patrick's clearly a little dejected because he's losing his aunt. She's going to be away for 9 months. She lets him know that there'll just be two men in her life now. Then we see, not a montage, but a series of clips of Auntie Mame on her honeymoon with Beauregard. They're in a bunch of places, and each one is more interesting than the last. At one point during the honeymoon, Beauregard dies. He falls off a mountain taking a picture of Mame, and she's devastated. So they figure she needs a new project. Him and Lindsay Woolsey decide that her writing her memoirs would be the best thing for her, because she's been in mourning now for almost 2 years. So there's Vera, still her friend, in the apartment with Lindsay Woolsey as they're waiting for Patrick to bring Mame home. You know, they give you the backstory that she's been mourning, visiting all the places they were together on their honeymoon, and while they're in there, this woman shows up, Agnes Gooch, played by Peggy Cass. And so Peggy Cass did this role, Agnes Gooch, on Broadway and won a Tony, and then she was nominated for an Oscar with the same role, and was the only one in the cast or crew of the 4 nominations they had for Oscars. Hers was the only one won. So good on Peggy Cass. Anyway, she plays Agnes Gooch, this personal secretary, and she just is dressed all in brown, glasses, hair pulled back into an unattractive bun, and it's like, well, you know, my Mame is a fast talker. You're going to have to keep up with her. And it's like, oh, well, the secretarial school she went to won't let anyone graduate who can't do 75 words a minute. And then she says, I'm over 100. And Vera looks at her and goes, you're not. Patrick shows up with his aunt, and that's where Vera's like, couldn't you, she's still in black, couldn't you have moved to purple by now? And Patrick lets it be known to her that their idea is for her to write her memoir. When she first comes in, she's all chatty with Patrick, and why don't you use your key? Why are you ringing the bell? And he's like, oh, I forgot. And then she sees Vera, and immediately, Vera, and she's now the tragic figure once again. Oh, can we get you some champagne? She goes, oh no, the bubbles do nothing to me anymore. So as she gets excited about the idea of writing her memoirs, oh, my memoirs, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Patrick, get your Auntie Mame a drink. Whatever, darling, just make it a double. And Patrick tells her, oh, well, I got you a friend of mine, a poet's going to help you. It's like a ghostwriter. And then this O'Banion shows up. It's just very funny because clearly Auntie Mame is attracted to him. That's where they close on that scene where she turns her back and you see that her mourning outfit is completely backless. Then we cut to the next series of scenes where it's Agnes Gooch walking around listening. She's either walking behind Mame and writing in her shorthand, what's going on and listening and writing. Or she's listening to the dictaphone and taking down whatever she's dictated. And while this is all going on, O'Banion is languishing on the sofa eating, it looks like bonbons. He's very much living the life of luxury on Mame's dime. Agnes shows Mame, oh, well, here's all the stuff I took down, and here's what Mr. O'Banion has edited, one sheet of paper. In the course of this, Mame is reading what he's edited. It's like, well, on the day I was born, Deidre wept tears. Couldn't you just say on the day I was born it rained? And he's like, but it's drab. It's like, well, buffalo is drab. Well, you can't use drab. How bleak was my puberty? And then Agnes Gooch says, how bleak was my puberty? And they all look at her like, well. And then the phone rings, and it's Lindsay Wolseley saying that MGM is thinking of, they're excited to hear more about Mame's biography as a vehicle for Betty Davis. And although O'Banion has clearly, you get the sense that he's been uninterested in any kind of financial foray with the book, Hollywood? Betty Davis, you say? Jack Warner? So now all of a sudden he seems a little interested in doing something. And Patrick Dennis shows up. And he's been, I guess, away for the summer. They haven't seen each other for a little bit. And when he walks in, O'Banion has been chasing Mame around the apartment and corners her on the sofa. Patrick walks in on this, and he's a little put out that she seems to be having it off with this poet, which isn't the case at all. And he wants to bring his girlfriend over. It's just this really great scene where they fight, and it may very well be the first time they fight, and Mame is just clearly upset that Patrick is becoming a snob. It's just a really good scene where the two of them kind of puff up in front of each other, and then they don't hold anything to it because they clearly just adore each other too much to be mad. And he even says, if she doesn't like you, I'm just going to punch her square in the nose. So Mame realizes she can't go to this party. So she has a thought. She decides that she's going to send Agnes Gooch with him to the party. And he won't go with Agnes Gooch. She's an abomination. I won't do it. And meanwhile, she's had Ito upstairs prettying Agnes up. So now Agnes comes down the stairs in this black gown, strapless. She looks like Marilyn Monroe, like literally like this well-stacked but brunette, and still Agnes Gooch's face, but she looks fantastic. And then Mame is like, shoulders back, bust out, tummy in. And then as Agnes walks down the stairs, she just literally ends up lying on them. It's too much. Of course, the poet won't have it. It's like, this is terrible. I'm not doing it. I won't go out with her. And Mame says, well, it's a good thing that her mother, the Countess de Gooch, can't hear you. She pull your beard. And the Countess, like, that perks up his freeloading ears. And so now all of a sudden O'Banion's interested in taking Gooch to this party. Patrick shows up with Gloria Upton, and she doesn't move her. She talks like this, and she walks into Mame's apartment, and she goes, "Oh, I just find books so decorative, don't you?" And Mame looks at her and goes, "Oh, well, what's your major, dear?" And she's like, "Oh." She clearly says that she's not there for an education; she's there for a husband. Mame is just in horror watching all this, and you can clearly see that she does not like this girl. Mame also finds out in talking to them that they're actually getting married, and Patrick says, well, I said it was definite, and Mame's like clearly just appalled. Her next plan is to meet this girl's parents, because Mame's clearly been kept out of the picture. Mame takes herself out to where they live to meet the parents, and they're just awful. Oh, Miss Dennis is like, oh, please, you must call me Mame. And they go, Mamie, and she's like, ugh. And he's making daiquiris made with honey, and he says, I'll tell you a secret, Mamie, there's no sugar in a Claude Upson daiquiri. And she drinks it and goes, and yet it's so sweet. Whatever do you use? And he says, honey. And he just, the way he says it, and she's like, pardon? So it's just apparently disgusting. They're serving hors d'oeuvres. Well, this is just jack cheese. That's tuna and peanut butter put through the meat grinders. Claude and Sylvia have designs on Patrick's future. He's going to get Patrick a job on the stock exchange or some such thing. Then they talk about the wedding. Claude says to Mame that he's planning to buy the lot next to them and build the kids a house. And he says, but we have to move fast because some people are looking at that property. Something Epstein, apparently a cellist. He's the most divine cellist. Oh, well, Mamie, you don't understand. Our neighborhood is restricted just up to this property line. And she's like, that's where she says, exclusive to what and restricted to whom? And she realizes they don't want the Epsteins to buy that property because they're Jewish. And the wheels start to turn in Mame's head, and she's like, well, you've done everything. You've planned everything. All I have to do is show up at the wedding. And they're like, you're all right, Mamie. You know, Babcock didn't want us to meet you, but you are really top drawer. And as he says that, the lights are fading into a pin spot on her face, and she's like... The next scene is her in her apartment, and it's another whole set. They've got this whole Danish design. Mame's new secretary, Pegeen. I just love that name, Pegeen. The reason that she has a secretary is Agnes Gooch is pregnant. Clearly she went out with O'Banion, and now she's pregnant. And it's just hilarious. Patrick shows up and meets Pegeen, and clearly they get along. Like, there's no real flirting or anything, but they just click, and it's charming. Then we see Agnes come down the stairs, and she's very pregnant, and Patrick's like, I don't think we could, I don't think the Uptons will understand. And she's like, oh, it's all right, dear. She'll be up in her room, and blah, blah, blah. And then Claude and Sylvia show up, and this is clearly payback for everything that they had going on at their house when Mame visited. So she has a signature drink, the Flaming Mamie, which is in a tall metallic flute glass, and she lights them on fire. And there's at the end, she's like, well, are we all lit? And then the furniture that she has... it's too low. When Sylvia ups and sits down, she just falls on it. And then Mamie is like, she pulls a cord and everything raises, and she's counting, and she keeps putting them up higher. And clearly Mrs. Upson is not happy, and Mamie brings her back down to earth. And then Dwight Babcock shows up, and you know, they're all just having a nice little rich white person reunion. While this is all happening, Mame then hands around hors d'oeuvres, and Gloria, oh, try the little striped ones, Mom, they're spicy. And they're nibbling, oh, whatever are they? It's like, oh, just pickled rattlesnake. And then Lindsay Wosley shows up with Vera Charles, and they've got Mame's book, the proofs for it, because it is being published. And immediately they all take different sections from the book, and they're all reading. And as these people, as Acacia's Page shows up, I was like, why are all these people here? It's just family, dear. And they all start reading excerpts out of this book, and Vera says, oh, God, I've passed out at so many of these parties. Now I can see how they all ended. And, oh, this is when you took Patrick to that speakeasy and the cops broke it up. And as all of this is being read and said, Gloria's family is just cringing. They're all just like, oh, my God. Dwight Babcock from the bank, he's flabbergasted. Nobody knows what to say or think. And it just goes from bad to worse. So as this is all kind of reaching a zenith, you can see like the Upsons are just appalled. And then they find out that Mame has bought the property next to them, not for the Epsteins themselves, but the Epstein charity, which is for unwed Jewish mothers. And this is too much. The Upsons freak out. Little Gloria, I think, leans into the controls for the sofa set, and they all start going up and down, and they all rush out. And at the end of it, Patrick's standing there looking at his aunt saying, you planned this. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this lights come in, and she's like, and then the next scene is Pegeen coming in with Patrick. They've since married. They have a child now, and Mame is back from India, and their son comes running out, and he's got a turban on and a scimitar. Clearly he's been talking to his aunt about the wonders of India, and she's put it into his head, well, if you ask your parents nice, they'll let you come with me. And Mame's just standing off to the side looking like she's not even listening to what's going on, and their son asks if he can go, and it's like, no. And their son says, well, you know, life's a banquet, and some poor suckers are starving to death, and they give in. It's like, oh, she's the Pied Piper, whatever. And it closes with going up the stairs with her grandnephew and saying, oh, the wonders I'll show you, the doors I'll open you didn't know existed. And that's the end of the movie. And that's the end of my face. I think I'm going to just throw on a bit of contour and blush and eyelashes and lippy. And there we go. This is this week's Makeup and Movies. The movie, Auntie Mame, 1958, starring the incomparable Rosalind Russell. I will be talking about other films she's been in. Some of them, His Gal Friday, Gypsy, The Women. They're just all spectacular. And this week's makeup, I want to just say I finished this look off, as I always do, with the NYX contour palette and the Fumi Desalu Vold collab with Juvia's Place, the Queen palette. I use her, what is it called? 7. This pink. That's my blush. That's what I use now. I used to use MAC. Now I use Fumi. Speaking of Fumi, I also used the Fumi Desalu Vold collab with Juvia's Place, the Disco Party palette, specifically this very dark blue called Dance With Me. You should visit Fumi Desalu Vold's tutorial on this. She has a story for each of the 4 colors, and they're all adorable. Putting a link right up there for you. So I used that blue to set my eyeliner. But the star of this show, courtesy of my Patreon supporter and East Coast friend Martha, is the Trixie Mattel Daytime Realness palette. The glitters that are in Trixie's palette, these glitters are spectacular. If you have a palette that has great glitters in it, you don't. These are better. So that was the makeup. I also, somebody asked me, and I'm sorry that I don't remember, I think it was Jane, asked me if I had a good suggestion for a lip liner that won't bleed. And I had that problem in the corners of my mouth. I have a bit of a downturn line here, and depending on how long I was in face, I would get those lines building up, and I'd have to kind of go back in and just touch up. I bought from L'Oreal the Age Perfect lip liner. It's all right. I'm not saying that it solves that problem, but I don't notice it as much when I use this one. There are certainly softer lip liners that I don't like to use because they do that. Some of those gel liners do that. I prefer, my favorite lip liner is Max Beat, but this is the one I used today. The color is Perfect Burgundy. So there you go. That's my face. That's the movie. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It really helps me out as far as just my numbers on YouTube go. If you like and or subscribe, which is my next thing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? I'm going to be dropping a makeup and movies video every Friday from now on. I know the first one premiered on a Monday, but this one and all of the others will be on a Friday because I think we need something to watch on a Friday. So until the next time, for those of you who have been so supportive and so great, thank you so much. For those of you who'd like to know how to be supportive and great, there are links down below in the description box. And until next week, miss me. Mwah. Seriously.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.